Now, I always had the idea from a child that I would really like to move to another country. There was something about the unfamiliarity that it would be able to create a new adventure, create your own story that way. At that age, of course, had no idea how actual difficult or how much steps it would be. Of course, I was 8. And it wasn't until my mid-20s that I actually achieved that dream. Hi everyone, I'm the Rum, one half of Wine and Rum. We're a couple living here in Dublin, Ireland for the past 4 years. We make videos about what it's like living in Ireland, as well as about the culture and even places that you may want to live. If any of that sounds interesting to you, why not subscribe? And if it's your first time here, why not click that notification bell so you know whenever we have a new video out. What I really want to talk about today was the preparation for moving to another country or city. Some of the things that you don't really think about besides the wonder and enjoyment of thinking, yes, I can be in some new streets, I can have these new adventures, is all of the things that might actually come up. We're talking about the cost of living. Countries and cities, they all have different sort of immigration laws and different sort of job markets. All these things that you really should consider before you're moving somewhere. I knew that I would have to focus on skill building. Out of university, I wouldn't say I was woefully unprepared, but I wasn't expecting the job market at the time. I'm one of those people that as soon as I came out of university, the Great Recession happened. Shout out to all you Gen Z folks right now who are going through a similar thing with the pandemic. But at that time, I was really, besides just looking for a job, focused on the skills I would need to be globally employable. I remember walking into an office and I had this interview. I was ready and raring to go. And let me preface this by saying, yes, I know cold fusion, it's a language, it works, people use it, governments and different organizations. It's just at the time, Facebook was out there and all of us were looking to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. We wanted, at least I wanted, if I knew I had to be on the global market in a year or a couple years, the skills had to be something more, something newer. Because even I thought that cold fusion was old and ancient back then. And so I ended up not taking that job, but I ended up actually doing some stuff with startups and different things on my own and a couple guys, because I said we were in the frenzy of trying to be the next big, Caribbean startup. And it was through that, those focus on the skills that were for a global level, that was able to get the skill set that I actually have today. But why was me even talking about the current job or what I did out of university important? Many countries have a list of jobs that are in demand, that they need skilled labor for. And when I mean skilled, it could be, yes, stuff that you might need a degree for, stuff that you don't. Anything where you have experience from stuff in the tourism industry, from the other things in the tech industry. Right now, tech is booming. Luckily, I ended up in tech. Interestingly enough, my first love of a career was actually going to be engineering. Yeah, that ended pretty quickly. Now, speaking of education, I know there's a lot of talk about education and whether we still need a degree. Well, for me at the time back in Barbados, having your undergraduate degree, that was free at the time. Unfortunately, it isn't fully free anymore. And by free, I mean paid with people's taxes. Yeah, so yeah, it's not free, but you get taxed for these things. But moving on. But basically, a few countries around the world do have some sort of point-based system. We've got Australia, the UK now, I know Canada. So for these countries, for immigration to take place, they basically look at a couple of skills or things that you have which would match the criteria they would like to welcome you into the country with. Don't get me started on, some of the hoops you need to jump through for immigration. But for some of those things, education is really important. When I was studying at university, the first time for the undergrad, and I was thinking of where I might want to go next, I did realize that having a master's degree would equate to more points. So if I wanted to have a career, I knew that somewhere in the future, I may need to do a master's degree. Well, spoiler alert, I did actually go do that master's. It was in the UK a few years ago. Why I also bring up education is because in some countries, they actually allow you to stay for, I think, a year or two, to actually gain some experience in that country based on what your degree or what you studied was. Unfortunately for me, once again, yes, this is a continuing theme, unfortunately. Yeah, I was there when Theresa May was Home Secretary, so any time to be able to stay a bit longer in the UK was like cut, slither. And then Brexit happened next year, so yeah. Hey, this is a nice segue. Speaking of education, so the wine and I, we actually created a course based on our own experiences of living and moving here to Ireland. So if you want to check that out, links in the description. Moving to a new country or city is usually difficult. Not always, because you may not have the skill set or you need to do some extra learning to get to a new job, but the main thing is sometimes just the cost. Savings. This was an aspect of moving that, like most young people, okay, young people back then, I know folks are more financially literate now, thank goodness, but back in my day, I wasn't thinking about saving that much, or rather, yes, I saved, but the amount of money that it would take, as I said, I went to university in undergrad where it was free. I did not actually know how much stuff was going to cost. And if you do start looking at, we have some of our past videos, it's in the course, the cost of living can make or break sometimes how you're able to go and live somewhere. Because the costs don't just start when you get there. Oh no. There are fees and all sorts of visas and different things you may need to get, depending on which country you originated from. Actually, when I was studying in the UK, part of the process was actually that they would check how much money you have. If you had enough money to spend a year there for the masters or however long your actual study program was, so you wouldn't be in any financial trouble where, some sort of government or some agency might be like, oh, we have someone that can't pay for this or that. I did mention that I was woefully unprepared for the actual same amount of money. Lucky for me, I had family and friends and, dare I say, allies that helped me organize with loans and different sort of money. So I was able to actually go and plot all that cash to live in the UK. I say live because the living expenses were higher than the actual cost of the degree. So just to think in mind if you're thinking about studying, especially in some of these bigger cities, the cost of living might actually be more than the degree, so you'll need to factor that in as well. Next up is something that I still struggle with. Patience. Anybody you can talk to with me growing up, I had no patience, and I think I still have. I've got a little more patience, but not as much as I should for some of the trials that usually go through here. Of course, a young and arrogant Rum really thought that, I'll come out of university, everything goes swimmingly, in a year or two, I've got these skills, I'm on my way, I've got all this money. No, that is not how it works. That is not how it works. To quote Game of Thrones, no sweet summer child. No. Yes, what actually happened is that there's this little thing called experience that you needed to get. And so I didn't even know what I needed to do for the masters or where I wanted to go. Because living in Ireland, this was not on the list. Studying in the UK, that was actually not on the list. I wanted to try Canada. I think it was New Zealand or Australia for a little time. During that time, my mind changed. I changed, what I wanted to do changed little by little. And so that's the thing to keep in mind. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It will take time to save up the money you need for the amount of education you may need, for the skills, for even the job opportunities, the applications, and certain things that might happen in the world. I so happened to be learning tech when the tech boom started. If I had been another career, then my translation to living and working in another country could have been faster, but it could have also been slower. For those of us who want to live and work in another country for a period of time, it's probably going to be a great job opportunity or even continuing on from studying at university, which will grant us this opportunity. Of course, for both of those things, there is a lot of preparation that may go in beforehand. So I would suggest, even if you're curious right now, start planning, start thinking of the skills you may need, the money you'll need to save, and even just a location. Sometimes we just want an escape, a break. Something new is something that we've sorely been missing. It may not need to be a far off country. A new experience could even just be in a neighboring city. Most of all, just think, know yourself, and be prepared. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, please do click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And until the next time, this is the Rum signing out. Bis später.